Hola estudiantes, this video is all about the present subjunctive tense. This is going to be the next tense we'll be learning, and we'll be using it to express wishes, doubt, and opinions in the present tense. This video is going to be all about how to conjugate this tense, and then there'll be a separate video about when to use this tense. So once again, this video is all the conjugations. So the steps to conjugate it is we're going to use the yo form of a present indicative. That's the normal present tense where it basically always ends in O. Next thing we have to do is drop the O, so get rid of the O, and then we're going to be adding the opposite ending. So from the yo verb, AR verbs are just going to get the ER endings, then ER and IR verbs will give AR endings. So if I have an AR verb, such as hablar, I'm going to start with my yo form in the present, which is hablo. Now I'm going to take off the O, so I'm left with habl. And now I'm going to add my opposite ending. The only exception, but instead of having O again in my opposite ending, I'm going to have the E. So it's like my yo ending is going to be the same as my usted ending all the time in this tense. So the verb hablar goes hable, hables, hable, hablemos, hables, hablen. So AR verbs use these E endings. If you want to write down the endings separately, these are what I underlined. Any ER or IR verb are now going to use the AR endings. So I will do beber, to drink, as an example. So the yo form of beber is bebo. So step 1, take my yo form. Step 2, drop the O, take off the O. Now I'm going to add my opposite ending, which for here, same thing, yo ending is going to be the usted ending, which is my A. So really the main difference between this and the normal present tense in terms of conjugations is that I'm using the opposite endings from what we typically do in the present, and then yo doesn't end in O anymore. So I'm going to go through some irregulars with this, like how to do stem changing in this tense. Stem changing is like the E to IE and O to UE. I'll go through some spell changing. We'll have cargar sar verbs again. What if the yo form doesn't end in O, and then the irregular yo verbs in the present tense. So if I have a stem changing verb, we're still going to follow this boot pattern that the present tense usually has. So for instance, if I were to conjugate the verb poder, which is O to UE, that's one that means can / able to. I'm going to take my yo form, which is puedo. I'm going to drop my O, and then I'm going to add my new opposite ending. So here it's going to be pueda because I'm doing an ER verb. Here it's going to be in tu, I'll have puedas. usted is still pueda. The thing is, once I get to nosotros and vosotros, though, I'm going to undo my stem changing. So I'm still following that boot pattern from the normal present tense, except now except the nosotros and vosotros still don't have the UEs in them, but they still do get the opposite endings. I'll do another example. So that was just poder, to be able to, can. Now I'm going to do servir. Actually, I lied. Let's do dormir, to sleep. And that's an O to UE one. So AR and ER verbs still keep the boot shape. That's why I label these as boot. IR verbs are still kind of going to keep the boot shape, except then in the nosotros form and vosotros, so outside of boot, they only get one letter. Here, I'll go ahead and do it and then explain how to do it. So in my verb dormir in the present subjunctive tense, I bolded and underlined the stem changes. So since this is an IR verb in the boot shape, it still keeps the normal stem changes that it would in the normal present tense. But then, just because it's an IR verb in the nosotros and vosotros outside of a boot, it changes to one letter. You can remember this IR rule because in the present progressive tense, like the NDO, ing1, and in the preterite tense, the past tense for one event, they also had IR to one letter. So in present subjunctive, it's just IR one letter only outside of a boot. Everything else stays normal. Boot shape still gets a stem change. The next topic with irregulars in this tense are going to be the car, gar, sar verbs. So remember, the letter C can make the k or s sound. In Spanish, the letter G can make g or h sound. And the letter Z, it's just lumped in here too. It always makes a s sound. So these verbs, well, pronunciations, I just want for your change when the next letter is an I or an E. So in my infinitive version, normally I want to have a k sound, g sound, and s sound from having an A next. Since with subjunctive, AR verbs have all these E's coming after them now, it's going to mess with the pronunciation. So for instance, if I were to do tocar, to play, and I take my yo form, drop the O, add my opposite ending of E everywhere, so I'd have tose, toses, tose, tosemos, toses, and tosen. But I want it to have that k sound, so every single form in present subjunctive has to get the spelling change. C's change to QU, so I'm going to replace all of these C's with QUs now. So the correct answer, which you can see spell check already caught, is toque, toques, toque, toquemos, toques, token, and that's in every single form on here. So you can recall that C changes to QU, G changes to GU, and Z's are going to change to C's. I'll do another example with jugar, to play. This will also be another stem changing practice because that's a U to UE verb in the present. So my yo form of present is juego. So I take my yo, drop the O, add my opposite ending, which is ESG, is going to change to a GU. And for some reason I put the two form in yo. So yo is juegue, tu juegues, because my G changes to GU, and I'm also having to do that U to UE stem change in my boot boxes only. So you can see every single form here is getting GU in it because every single one has the spelling change, stem changing, like O to UE, U to UE, E to IE is only inside my boot boxes. So make sure you know what these change to, which is the exact same that we already learned in commands and preterite tense. So sometimes we keep going through this step, take the yo form, drop the O, add the opposite ending. Sometimes some verbs don't end in O in the present tense. Most verbs that don't end in O are dar, changes to doi, that means gives. In the present subjunctive tense, dar is going to change to day with the accent mark. This is the exact same topic we did with the two negative commands and all the ustedes commands with the dishes. But the same thing happens again because we still have we still have that yo form, drop the O situation that does not quite work out. So I'm making a list of them right here. The first row that I'm putting on each one is what it is in the present tense. Underneath, I will put in the present subjunctive what it is. So I'm going to start by putting the root words, like dar's root word is going to be de, ir, via, ser, sea. Aber, that's one like there is or there are, is going to be aya, estar, este, with an accent mark on the end, and saber is sepa. So from this root word, we're going to add the endings to it. So if I were to do all the endings for dar, yo form would be de, tu, des, ea usted, de, nosotros demos, ellos, ellas, ustedes, den. Ir, I'd have vaya, vayas, vaya, vayamos, and then I'd have vayan for the last one. Ser is sea, seas, sea, seamos, sean. You definitely don't need to write down all of these new conjugations. If you have a root word, we're just adding the same ending because we know by now, since you've made it almost for Spanish too, that the tu form always is going to end in s. Ea usted form always ends in a vowel. Nosotros always ends in amos, and ellos, ellas, ustedes always ends with an n. And really that hint of like tu form always ends with an s, nosotros, mos, they with an n works for imperfect tense, regular present tense. It's going to work in the future tense once we learn that too. So that's the dishes what to do if they don't end with an o. The last irregular topic here is sometimes the yo form of a present tense is irregular. So the first step is take our yo form of a present tense. But then in present, when you learned this in Spanish 1 and we reviewed it earlier this year, we have words like poner, which instead of being pono, it gets the G in it and goes to pongo, I put. We had that song that goes to the tune of Happy and You Know It to help learn these. There's Oset on Quizlet to learn, like, remember poner goes to pongo in the yo form. You can copy this chart down again. Writing it down should trigger your memory as well. So all of these have the irregular yo forms. I know there are a lot of G's and C's in here. They do not spell change because for mostly ER and IR verbs that would get A's, and they already have O's here, so that doesn't make a difference with the spell changing. So for instance, if I were to do venir, come in the present subjunctive, so if I said like I hope I come, I'd have venga, I hope that you come, vengas, he, she would be venga, we come, vengamos. So I'm just taking that root word veng, V-E-N-G, and adding my AR endings to it because those are my opposite endings. So that is all how to conjugate this tense. I will be practicing each group of irregulars as that is the hardest part of remembering this tense.